Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're just letting everybody in. Lovely to see you all. Okay. We'll make a start. I anticipate more will join us as we keep going. But welcome. Good to see you all on Friday. For those that have been with us for the week, well done for getting to Friday. Absolutely. We've been around the country, so we have a really informative talk today for Portsmouth. First of all, just a bit of housekeeping, which I know you will all be accustomed to by now. Obviously, just make sure you are on mute. Please do use the chat function to ask any questions. We will absolutely be sharing the recording for everybody, so please pass it on to all your groups and your fellow organisers to take a look at. We will do a Q&A session at the end. So, as mentioned, we're going to introduce all things Portsmouth to you over the next hour. And really, we just didn't want to let January pass. Obviously, we have moved the physical show into the 19th of March, but we really didn't want to let January pass without doing something to our excursions audience. So we're really pleased to be putting on these virtual events, and it's a great way just to kind of get a taster for what's coming at the actual show. So without further ado, I will pass on to Jane Singh, who will talk you through and introduce everybody from the team.
Hi everybody, welcome to Portsmouth. We're just going to run through a few of our highlights this morning. So we've got a few partners with me to go through this presentation. So we'll be looking at Portsmouth Historic Dockyard and everything there that there is to offer. The wonderful Spinnaker Tower that you can see there in the middle of the screen now. The D-Day story in Southsea, and the University of Portsmouth accommodation. I mean, there's obviously much more than that in Portsmouth. Those are the partners we have with us today. I will be popping up later to cover both the D-Day story and the university, because unfortunately, both those members of staff from those teams are otherwise occupied this morning. If we can go on to the next slide, please. Just to give you a bit of an overview about Portsmouth, hopefully you are aware of where we are. Ideally situated in the middle of the south coast of England. Really great transport links by road, by rail, and also by sea for those international visitors. We've got a really wide range of world-class attractions and events in the city. So you'll hear about some of those from our partners today. But the other things to remember are Gunwharf Quays, where Spinnaker Tower sits. So that's retail, designer, outlet shopping, which is fabulous for any group visiting. They usually want to spend a little bit of time there doing a bit of shopping. Old Portsmouth, which is just alongside, full of historic fortifications, and you've got the Hot Wall Studios there, where you can have a range of experiences. They have studio open days, but groups can also book onto things like weaving classes, painting classes, etc. And you can walk through from Gunwharf. You could do a guided tour of Old Portsmouth. You've got the cathedral there as well. And then you can walk through past Portsmouth Museum and Art Gallery and down into Southsea. And this image that's on the screen really just shows you how close everything is together. So you can see HMS Warrior kind of at the middle bottom right of the screen, and the Tower and Gunwharf Quays, Old Portsmouth, and then Southsea Common. So you can see how close everything is. So it's really easy to navigate your way around the city when you're here with a group. So you can park up and really kind of just go for a wander. It's all flat and really easy. We have a big event program every year, but this year seems to be bumper. I think there are a number of anniversaries which are making that a much more full program for 2022. So just some of the things, you can find out more of all this on the Visit Portsmouth website. But some of the things we have are Comic Con at the Guildhall. There'll be a number of events to mark the Queen's Jubilee, including beacon lighting in the city and community events. We've got the Sea Angling Classic, the 40th anniversary of the Falklands conflict, the 40th anniversary of the Mary Rose raising, which I'm sure you'll hear more about later, Armed Forces Day events, Southsea Food Festival, the Kite Festival, Victorious Music Festival, Great South Run, Oktoberfest, and then a range of Christmas events, and the ice rink in the city centre will be coming back. So all those things, as I said, you can find out more about on the Visit Portsmouth website, and it would be a good idea to kind of contact me if you want to sign up for our newsletter, because we can then make sure that you're kept fully up to date with everything Portsmouth. We have a great range of accommodation that's ever growing in the city. So we have some big independently owned hotels and a number of chains. And we also have the accommodation at the university, which I'll talk about later on. And of course, we have great evening entertainment. So we've got 2 theatres and the Portsmouth Guildhall with a whole range of entertainment right throughout the year. And the whole creative side of the city is really growing. So we get a lot of groups coming for the day, but we are really trying to grow that staying market as well. So we get groups to come and stay for a little bit longer in the city. Coach parking, which I know will be a question for a lot of you. It remains unchanged, the prices, as they have done for a number of years. So just generally in the places where you can park a coach in the city, it's £1 per hour and £5 for a whole day. And those places are Cascades Approach in the city centre, St George's Road and Museum Road, which are nearer to the Historic Dockyard and Portsmouth Museum, and the D-Day car park. We also have a number of themed itineraries that have recently been updated. So again, do contact me if you'd like those. And it just gives an idea of the kind of things you could do with a group over a day along different themes. And it might just give you some inspiration for new things to do if you've been to Portsmouth before and you just want to have a different look at things. You may have questions about the clean air zone, which has been introduced in the city. If you look on the, if you just Google Portsmouth Clean Air Zone, you will find out more about that, but it is the older coaches that will be liable to charge for that. And if it is an older coach, it's £50 a day and you can pay 6 days before and 6 days after. But again, do contact me if you can't find out the information you need and you want to know more about that. It's a very kind of distinct area, but it does cover a lot of our historic attractions in the city. That's kind of a very quick overview of everything we've got that's going on. And I'm more than happy for people to contact me if they've got specific questions about things. So please do. I'll pass on now to Emma, I think, who's going to talk first about the National Museum of the Royal Navy's role within the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard and all the things there that we have on offer. Thank you. Can you move to the next slide, please?
Hello everybody, I am here representing Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, but it's actually Kaylee that's going to start us off. I hope everyone is aware of Portsmouth Historic Dockyard and what we have to offer on site. We are fully open, but we have had some changes over the last couple of years which we want to take you through. So if Kaylee wants to start us off.
Yeah, hello everybody, welcome. As Emma said, I'm sure you're all familiar with Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. However, in the last 2 years, there have been quite a few changes in terms of updates to the attractions and also in terms of the way we operate. So most notably, good news, the Mary Rose is once again included in our brand new ticket structure. So what this means is no separate bookings for group leaders. You don't have to book one for the Victory and the Warrior and one for the Mary Rose. It's all under the same booking again and included in the same ticket as well. So it should work out a little bit more cost effective than when we were separated a couple of years ago. So as you can see, there's the Mary Rose. I'm not sure when most of you will have last been. For those of you that haven't, in 2016, the Mary Rose project on the ship itself was actually completed. So you've got uninterrupted views from the ceiling to the floor behind the glass. So you can see the ship clearly. The ship's no longer in conservation anymore. She's been sprayed and then dried, and that was going on for a very long time, about 34 years, and that is all completely finished. There's obviously constantly other projects that we're always doing around the museum. It is an ongoing project, and there have been some further changes, which I'll speak a bit later. But the ship is all finished and there for you to see in all her glory.
So next slide. Okay, so following on from the Mary Rose, we have HMS Victory, the flagship of the British Royal Navy still. I'm sure quite a few have visited her in the past. We've got quite an exciting conservation project which is kicking off this year in 2022. There will be a brand new cradle built around HMS Victory so she can be conserved for the long term, and all of this will be starting this year. This does mean that HMS Victory will have some scaffolding around her for the next couple of years, and we're looking for that to start in the spring. However, it will give the opportunities for visitors to get a real look at how conservation works on a historic ship. And we do have some exciting things in the woodwork for getting visitors to actually see alongside the conservators and what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. So we're quite excited about that. Next slide, please. After HMS Victory, we have HMS Warrior, Queen Victoria's flagship from 1860. She's looking fabulous there in the harbour and is often the first ship you will see when you arrive at the dockyard, either off the coach or off the train. The first ironclad warship of her kind and also the first steam-powered ship of her kind. A very good contrast to HMS Victory in regards to how the Industrial Revolution impacted the British Royal Navy. Next slide, please. Then we have the National Museum of the Royal Navy, the main museum on site after the Mary Rose. This covers 3 buildings and tells the story of the British Royal Navy from her inception up to the modern day. We have 3 main galleries. We have the Nelson Gallery, the Sailing Gallery, and the HMS Gallery. That covers, quite self-explanatory, Nelson, the history of the sailing navy, and then HMS, which covers the 20th century navy from the First World War up to the modern day. We also have a brand new gallery, which is the HMS Victory Gallery, which tells the story of the ship herself from her being built in Chatham up to and through Trafalgar and her entire career, and then up to the modern day as a visitor attraction, because previously we've never really told her entire story. We've only ever really focused on Trafalgar. So this brand new interactive gallery, which is open now and is permanent, tells the story of her entire life. Next slide, please. We then have HMS Monitor M33, the lucky ship from 1915. She fought in the Battle of Gallipoli and has been open since 2015. She's a lovely little addition to the ship and really enhances our 20th century story. Next slide, please. And then we have our very, very popular harbour tour. Runs all year round. You get to go out on the water, a 50-minute ride with a live commentary, which tells the history of the harbour itself. And then you also will get to see any of the current warships that are in dock. If you're very lucky, you'll get to see one of the aircraft carriers, one of the 2 which often are in, but then any foreign ships that are in and any other ships that may be in at the time as well. Next slide. And then we also have 2 museums across the water in Gosport, which is included within the ticket structure for the historic dockyard. So they may not be located in Portsmouth, but will be included in your ticket. We have the Explosion Museum in Gosport, which tells the story of the explosive factories and magazines that were stored there from the 1800s right the way through to the Second World War. We have a brand new exhibition there as well, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Next slide, please. And then we have the Royal Navy Submarine Museum, that also located in Gosport. Gives you the entire history of the submarine as a part of the British Royal Navy, and you also have the opportunity to go on board HMS Alliance, which is the only Second World War era submarine open to the public. And next slide, please. And then this brand new exhibition that we have located at the Explosion Museum opened in October last year, but I'm still saying it's new for 2022. I'm terribly sorry, my notes have actually just disappeared on me. It tells the story of the coastal forces which used to patrol Britain from the First World War right the way through to the Second World War. The exhibition tells the story of the personal I'm terribly sorry about this, the personal experiences of the people that used to be part of the coastal forces. Moment. So yeah, it's a permanent exhibition which tells the story of the Royal Navy Coastal Forces from August 1916 to its demise in the 1950s. Two of the Second World War historic boats that make up an extraordinary contribution to naval warfare have been manoeuvred into place within the gallery. And it tells the story of this Royal Navy branch, which is often manned by very young men and volunteers, and would go out in wooden craft to patrol the coasts of Britain during the two world wars. So that's definitely a very good addition to our museums. And I'll hand back over to Kaylee.
Next slide, please. Okay, so if any of you have visited the Mary Rose Museum, you'll remember when you first go in and get your ticket checked, you then enter to the right, and you are just in the museum. And the story in the museum kind of starts obviously from when the ship sank, because that's all of the objects and artifacts that we have. It's essentially a Tudor time capsule. So the part of her story prior to her sinking on July the 19th, 1545, was previously not told in the museum, as we didn't have the space for it or how to interpret that. The entrance to the museum is now completely different. So in July, we had a brand new experience added to the start of the journey, and it's called 1545, When Their World Ended, Our Began. And it's an immersive experience. So you will actually go in, I won't do any spoilers, but you will go in and it is immersive. And what it really does is gives you more of an introduction and overview to the museum, and also gives you a little bit of a background knowledge prior to the Mary Rose sinking. So that's a really nice new addition that we've got to the museum. That is a good highlight for any age from any audience, and it's been really well received. So we're really pleased with that. We're also very lucky to have someone very famous and very credible. That is the narrator on the introduction, but I won't spoil it for you. See if you can recognise their voice if you do come and visit. Next slide, please. I forgot it did that. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so on the 11th of October, it will mark the 40th anniversary of since the Mary Rose being raised, which is obviously a really big milestone for the Mary Rose, the Trust, and her story, and so on. Obviously, there is one of the most iconic images that I'm sure everyone will have seen plenty of times, of the day that the Mary Rose was raised on the 11th of October 1982. Obviously, we would like to do lots of things to mark this monumentous anniversary. I can't say too much yet, as there are lots of plans being worked on, but one thing you can be sure of is there will be plenty of extra activities, events, occasions, and additions to the museum, sort of prior to October, in October, and after October, to mark this anniversary. So if you haven't visited us for even just a year or two, you've now obviously got the brand new immersive experience at the start of the museum, and obviously this autumn we will have lots of very exciting things happening in addition in the museum and to our programming this year. So a really exciting year to come back and visit us again if you haven't been for a while. Next slide, please. Obviously, we mentioned at the start that we are now as one again, so the Mary Rose is included within all of the tickets. As you can see here, this is our new ticket prices for groups. So you've got the prices just on the side there. I don't know if any of you have been before or previously remember, but the old ticket sort of options that you had has typically always been 1 attraction, 3 attraction, or we've now called it our Ultimate Explorer, which is basically includes everything. I see there's a question there for any student concessions. We don't have an actual student rate, so it would come under an adult rate, but depending on what type of students they are, If you see on the second bullet point there, we have special rates available for international students and youth groups. So it would depend on what type of students they are. The typical group benefits, we haven't really changed much. So you're still getting the same benefits, which have been in place for quite some time. So you are getting a 25% saving off your regular ticket price. One of the small changes, we have dropped groups. They start from 12 now. Obviously, post-COVID, when people did start visiting, people were nervous about going out in big groups, so we did make it slightly smaller. At the moment, it is a maximum of 50, but we are going to look to review this in the summer. Like I said, we've got the special rates available for students, free entry for group leaders, of course, as standard. There is a time slot. The time slot we've always had had. It's not for the attractions, it's just to gain entry to the site. And again, that's off the back of COVID restrictions for us being able to manage our capacities. Once you're in, say if you book a group visit for 11 o'clock, that will just be the time that you get into the group, into the dockyard, sorry. And then once you're in, it's free flow into the attractions as per normal. And obviously Jane touched on the coach parking earlier. Sorry, I missed, was there a question about international student visitors? No, we can always come back to it. We do have a groups brochure as well. So obviously if you sign up and want to join your email, then we can always follow up afterwards and send you our groups brochure, which will have all of this information in there about the group rates, the different student rates that we offer, coach parking, information about the attractions, and the new ticket structure that we have as well, and how to book and who to contact. So all of that information will be within the group brochure if any of you would like a copy of that. We have started to get some requests back in for people requesting that we send out actual hard copies of the brochure. Again, something that came off the back of COVID, we didn't have any hard copies. Lots of people weren't doing leaflets, but we do have an e-version, so we are more than happy to email that to anybody that asks. It's just we can't actually post any physical copies at the moment. And I think that's it from us. So I think there's just one final closing slide. So hopefully there's lots of new things for you to enjoy at Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. Like Emma said, we are open, and we have seen the groups market slowly returning over the year, obviously not internationally but domestically, and there's lots of new things and changes for you to enjoy. So we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee. If we can move on to Sonia now and the Spinnaker Tower.
Morning, everybody. So I'm Sonia. I'm one of the duty managers here representing the Spinnaker Tower. So I'll just go and talk you through a couple of the slide. So it would have normally have been my colleague Jade, who is our reservations and relations executive, but sadly she's on annual leave this weekend. So unfortunately you have me, but hopefully I can talk you through the slides that we do have at the moment. So if we move to the next slide, please. Okay, so we have our group bookings. So at this current moment, our group bookings are a minimum of 15 people. So you are able to contact our reception team and also email our bookings email address, and it will go through to my receptionist Paul, or I say Jade, our reservation and relations executive. So your group ticket does include obviously entrance into the tower. We've also got our 4-minute pre-show animation video, which gives you a little bit of history in regards to Portsmouth and a little bit about what you can see as well. We've got our lift that takes you up to our first viewing platform. So the lift only takes 28 seconds to reach our first viewing level. Travels at 4 meters every second. At the moment with COVID restrictions, we do have 15 people maximum into the lift, but that could possibly be reviewed as the year goes on. So our first level, which is 100 meters above sea view, we do have a glass floor there as well, which you can walk across and be a little bit daring. We do then have 60 stairs that will take you up to our open air sky garden, which is manned by one of our team, and he takes pride in being our little green fingered gardener at the moment as well. There is no restrictions for how long you actually stay up the tower. You can stay up for as long as you like, and obviously just look at all of the views. If we go on to the next slide, please. So our group bookings, like I said, it's a minimum of 15 people. We do have group discounts if you did want to add a little bit more to your group experience with our high teas. So our afternoon teas take place in our cafe in the clouds level, which is 105 meters above sea level. We do have prices for those, which I will go through a little bit later on as well for you, but you can add a little bit something extra to your high tea and add a glass of Prosecco to that. Standard, we do have free admissions for the group organizer and the coach driver as well. And with the coach driver, if there is a meet and greet booked in, we do offer a free packed lunch as well. So the meet and greet service is that needs to be a pre-booked thing, and we will come and meet you in Gunwharf Quays. We'll come meet the coach in Gunwharf Quays, and that's where we will explain to the guests that are on the coach a little bit about the tower and what you can do as well. We do at the moment offer a 15% discount for everybody in the group, which is a discount off of our guidebooks, in our gift shop, in our Spinnaker kitchen and bar, and we do sometimes do that off of photos as well. If we can go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So with that, we do have the coach vouchers as well. So again, that is something that we can pre-book for you when you contact our reception team or our bookings team. We can obviously offer you a voucher to park anywhere in the city. As said earlier, we also do a Gunwharf coach parking as well. Obviously that is permitted with Gunwharf as to whether there is availability, but that is something that we can check upon inquiry as well. We do have the free adult places for the education group. So with schools and with colleges, we do for every 10 students, we'll have one adult that can go in free. And then we have that for every, then I think it's 6 for primary school, infant school, it will be one adult free for every 6. And there is also free familiarization visits as well. So obviously if your group is coming in, say in April, and you'd like to come and have a quick wander around in February to do a little bit of a risk assessment for yourselves, we can have that arranged as well for you. If you'd like to go on to the next slide, please. So these are all of the prices. So as you can see, there is a slight reduction for our group prices to our public rates as well. And with the high tea groups, as I was saying earlier, so it's £28 for a group high tea. Again, it's a minimum of 15 people, or if you would like to add a little bit of glass of Prosecco to that, it will be £38 as well. The high tea experience is valid for an hour and a half. That does not include looking around the tower before and after your high tea as well. So you could end up being in the tower for about 2 hours or as long as you like. That is pretty much everything from me today. If you've got any questions, like I said, email our reception team, bookings@spinnakertower.co.uk, and my colleagues, my receptionists, can answer anything that you have. And that is it from me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sonia. You have me again now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the D-Day story in Southsea. Ross Fairbrother, who is the general manager at the museum, will be at the live event in March, so you'll be able to meet Ross there and ask any other questions. But I'm quite familiar, I'm sure we'll be fine. If you can move to the next slide, please. So for those of you who don't know anything about the D-Day story, it's the only museum in the UK telling the story of D-Day from the perspectives of the people who were there. And new now, I mean, we've had it open, closed, but LCT 7074, the enormous landing craft that's now outside the museum, is the last remaining craft from World War II. It carried 10 tanks across Normandy in 1944, and with a joint project between the D-Day story and the National Museum of the Royal Navy, that craft has been conserved from the terrible state it was in to the shining glory it is now outside the museum. If we move to the next slide. So you can see it there, It's a massive, massive ship right on the seafront, and your visit to the museum for your guests begins on board LCT 7074. So you go on board, we've got 2 of our tanks on board as well, and there are staff around who can provide some more information, and you can go up to the gun deck at the far end. Is it the gun? See, I'm not that familiar. You can go up to the 2nd level and look out, and there's amazing views there as well, out to sea and across the city. If we move on to the next slide, when you go inside the museum, the first section really talks about all the preparations for the D-Day landings. So you find out about all the different things that were involved, the spying, getting everything together. To move on, please. And we've got some of our other period vehicles in there as well in that first section, and lots of kind of tactile things that people can touch, hopefully now, post nearly COVID. Yeah, if you move on. Then we move into D-Day and the Battle of Normandy section. So there's a whole kind of big wall of film that shows you kind of the different sections for the different beaches, what happened on the day, and it goes through in a kind of time way so you can see what happened as the day unfolded. And we also have our landing craft, which now has an image, a video projected onto it. And so you hear, these are actors who've been filmed to take part in this, but they talk about real recollections from real people who were involved, to give you an idea of how those men were actually feeling on that day as they were about to land on the beaches in Normandy. It's very moving, actually. Move on to the next slide, please. After you've done that section, you come out into the main area of the museum again, and then go across into the Overlord Embroidery and Legacy Gallery. If we move on, it gives you a bit more of an idea of that. So you walk around. This is a really, really long embroidery, 83 meters, I think it is, longer than the Bayeux Tapestry. And there's interpretation underneath. It tells the story of D-Day in textile, basically. And in the middle of that gallery, there is a circular pod, which talks about how they made the embroidery, and we sometimes have talks and things in there about the making of it too. If you move on. So new for 2022, we've got an audio tour of the museum now. It includes the main museum galleries and the Overlord embroidery. So not, excuse me, not the LCT outside, but it's just all the inside areas. And that's available in English, French and German. Move on. These are the group rates. We haven't changed the group rates, they remain the same. And you can, do contact us if you want any more information on any of those. They're all available on the website as well. If we move on. So really the shot there of the shop, we've got a shop and cafe in that kind of middle section of the museum. Do contact the team for more information. The on-site cafe is available. We can do pre-book options, it says there, for eat-in or take-out. And there is a large circular meeting room that's available for hire for whatever reason. But if you wanted your whole group maybe to have a lunch, we can arrange that. We can do curator talks on a range of subjects. And group guided tours will be available. The new guided tour that will be available that we're going to launch in spring for the landing craft. So you could arrange that in advance so that you'd have somebody taking your group around the landing craft to find out more about it. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, one of the biggest kind of coach park for the city is next to the D-Day story. So it's perfectly located to be able to, park up and just walk straight in. Right behind the museum as well, you have Southsea Castle, which is Henry VIII's castle. So if you wanted to do something that tied up the dockyard, D-Day, and that whole Tudor period, it works quite well, and that's free entry. So it's quite a nice little add-on for a group visit that isn't going to cost you anything. Thank you. If we move on, I think that's the end of the D-Day story. So the University of Portsmouth, David Goodwin from the University of Portsmouth really wanted to be here this morning, but he's been called away. They've got some major kind of inspection going on at the university, so he hasn't been able to make it at the last minute. He again will be there in real life in March for any of you who come along then. So the university offers a range of accommodation between June and September. So when the students are not in the city in numbers, they have a large number of rooms available, over 3,500, I believe. And And it's got quite a wide choice as well. So you can have just the room only, you can have self-catering, with your bed and breakfast half or full board. And it has been voted runner-up, as you can see, with Group Travel Organiser magazine over the last 5 years. Yeah, as I said, there's a choice of 3,500 rooms. You can see some of them there right on the seafront with fabulous views. It's a really good option for groups to stay in the city at a good price in a great location. So they can do discounts on the standard rates, flexible payment for terms. They offer free accommodation for the coach driver or the group organiser, and they'll provide a dedicated event manager to help you with all your group needs, basically, whilst you're staying in the city. So that's the end of our main presentation. Thank you very much for listening. You can see some of the contacts there that I would have mentioned as we've been talking through. You know, I would just really encourage you to visit Portsmouth if you haven't been before. Come back if you've been previously. We're really starting to see numbers increase a little bit now, and we're really hopeful that 2022 is going to be a bumper year. Some of our museums, I should have mentioned at the D-Day actually, we are keeping some of those kind of COVID measures in place. So they're not enforced, but it just means that it is a clean, safe environment for visitors to be welcomed into. You know, so things like extra cleaning and all those across the city, our attractions are keeping some of those, even though the kind of restrictions around face coverings, etc., have been lifted. So it just means that your groups will have that added kind of assurance that they can have a safe visit, really. Thank you very much for listening, and happy to take any questions through the chat.
Jane, thank you. That's such a wonderful presentation from everyone, really succinct and great to see the overview. As Jane mentioned, it'd be good to take some questions if anybody has any, and I can see in the chat room, and perhaps Kaylee did cover this, but just to go back over that, we were asked about the student concessions. I could say if that particularly relates to the Mary Rose, but perhaps the whole of the dockyard.
Yeah, we do have international student rates set for up to and including the 31st of March 2023. They're in our brochure. We just didn't put them on this particular slide because normally it's for adult groups, kind of the excursions. So if anybody would like that, a copy of our, like Kaylee said, our e-brochure, we can send it out to them.
Thank you, Emma. Any other questions that are on the top of people's head to know? No, we seem very quiet. It's just yeah.
I'm just going to say, Kevin, in relation to Kevin's question, if you wanted things generally about the city, Kevin, if you just email me, my contact details are there. But I've made a note of the website you put in the chat as well, so I'll have a look and see what else we might be able to help you with there.
Yeah, thanks for that. I did actually, like 5 years ago, I was actually teaching at the University of Portsmouth. So we used to have to take the international students on a little walking tour. But yeah, for our website now, that we are really marketing to international students who are studying at university or at language schools and colleges. So you're talking sort of age 16 upwards, you know, young adults, you know, master's students, people like this, particularly Asian markets. They do like to travel around. They do like to find out stuff, although not in too much detail with dates and things like that. But yeah, the common problem that we get, if I can just say to all your attraction managers here, is a lot of attractions say yes, there is a student discount on presentation of an NUS student card. Most international students do not join the NUS. Okay, they will join the student union. That is different. That's a social thing at the university, but they do also have for their international student study visas their BRP card that confirms their status, immigration status as a student. And it's much better to say for international students, show your BRP card, not an NUS membership card, because they won't have that.
Right, I'm really sorry. The international student rate I was talking about is for group visits. For individuals, unfortunately, the Historic Dockyard, as Kaylee said, unfortunately doesn't offer a student discount. It would be the adult rate for individuals coming in. I will certainly feed it back to the consumer side of the business. But if any international student groups want to come in for a day, then they would get these rates that we have set up.
That's what we do. We try and put together groups so that they can benefit from those rates. So that's the purpose with our website and stuff like that. But they are informal groups. We don't arrange coach travel and stuff like that. We would have somebody meet them there. Chinese in particular, they'll get a group of friends together, typically 6 to 8, possibly more, depending on how many sort of cars they put together to drive somewhere, or get the coach travel and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we do. We try and put the groups together for them.
Thanks, Kevin. That's really interesting to know, actually really informative to feed back to everybody. Thank you. And thank you also, David, for your feedback there. I just had one quick question on Portsmouth, and just knowing Portsmouth myself, Jane, how easy is it to have a group that comes to visit here? How logistically is it easy to put these things together to form itineraries?
You asking me? Sorry.
Yeah,
I was
sorry,
slightly
Jane, yeah.
distracted for a second. Really easy, I'd say. We're really keen to help. But as I said right at the beginning, everything is quite close together in the city. So once you get here and park up, I know some groups might not want to walk any distance, but if you've got a group that can walk for 20 minutes or so, you can kind of put a few things together quite easily. And you can also, do a little bit of these are the options, book a few things, but then give people options for the free time as well, because there's lots of, I don't want to be divisive around male and female interests, but we've got lots of historic fortifications and we've got lots of great shopping. So I'm sure the men would love to go to Gunwharf Quays and the designer shops, and the ladies go to the fortifications. But there are lots of things, you can have a bit of free time and there's real choice. It's really easy to get into the city. We've got good parking. I think it's just perfect for groups because of those things, because things are close together. You've got a real range of options, and it's really flat and easy and accessible, and great sea views, of course. So you're not only seeing these world-class attractions, you're right on the beach as well.
Wonderful, thank you, Jane. Just checking, no more questions from anybody. Feel free to raise your hand or okay, if there are no more questions, it's really just left me to say thank you very much for joining us. We have a further virtual familiarisation trip this afternoon with Visit Richmond at 3 o'clock. Yeah, the last one of the week. So yeah, we welcome you all to join us. But importantly, as I said, this is the introduction to what will be the physical event for excursions on the 19th of March, and we absolutely encourage you all to join us. There are coach transfers available. There's going to be lots of exciting activities and things to see and do, and obviously to find out and actually meet these lovely people face to face, which will be wonderful, I'm sure. So yeah, really encourage you all to join us for that. And I think it's just left for me to say thank you very much. Thank you for the team at Portsmouth, and look forward to seeing you either this afternoon or on the 19th of March. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.